Today I want to talk to you about the FlySky Nirvana, or the underground FPV Nirvana, whatever. It is the radio that looks like that you can control a Batmobile with it. And yeah, let's see what it's all about. I wanted to make this video like three weeks ago, pretty much since I got the Nirvana, but it is a curse and a blessing in one piece. I'll explain why. First, it is important where you got your Nirvana from. There are basically two different versions of the Nirvana. One is the underground FPV version, which is sold by Underground FPV through the Underground FPV web store and through the official dealer network, which is like TBS, Get FPV, Multi-Rotor Parts in Europe, and this kind of shops. And then there is a FlySky version of the Nirvana, and this one is sold to shops where you would expect getting FlySky products from, like GearWest and Banggood and so on. The difference between these both versions, well, in the hardware there is basically no difference, except one of the very early versions of the FlySky version, so through Banggood and GearWest, they had a very early version of the logic board, and this had some power issues, which led to not getting enough power through the module bay. So with the first versions you got from Banggood, you couldn't use the full potential of Crossfire in the Nirvana, and I think the full potential is like 500 milliwatts, and with the faulty version you could only go up to like 100 milliwatts. Since this is sorted out, the hardware you're getting is basically completely the same, except for the little sticker here. It should say FlySky for the FlySky version, and it should say Nirvana for the underground FPV version, but this seems not to be super consistent. I have heard of mix-ups in this regard. So yeah, even if you got your radio from Banggood, it has this underground FPV engraving down here, and it even has underground FPV stickers inside the box. So this, to me, this is very confusing. So what is actually the difference, and why it is important that you know what version you're buying? The difference is in the software. The underground FPV version of the Nirvana is able to use a software which is called Open Underground. It is distributed through the Open Underground Updater, a software tool you can download from the Underground FPV website after you enter the serial number of your Nirvana into the website. Then, if your serial number is approved, you can download an updater, which will again check your serial number with the service of Underground FPV, and if that all matches their databases, you will be able to download and flash a software called Open Underground. Open Underground is something like a customized version of OpenTX for the Nirvana, with extensions made by Underground FPV. At the moment, there is not much difference between Open Underground and the beta version of OpenTX, which is on the FlySky radio. The main difference at the moment are sound files and fancy background images. So at the moment this doesn't make a big difference, but in the future Underground FPV says it will make a big difference. Also, I'm very curious how this will work out, because since Open Underground is based on OpenTX and OpenTX is distributed under an open source license, you basically have to feed every modifications you made to that code base back into the open source OpenTX. So I cannot imagine that there will be a lot of great exclusive features in Open Underground that won't make it to the OpenTX fork of the Nirvana software. So this of course is not true for any extensions Open Underground maybe come with, like I know they are building a Lua script, or they're porting the Crossfire Lua scripts right now, so that you can configure your Crossfire from the Nirvana, which is not possible at the moment. That's cool. And yeah, I'm sure there are cool things to come. They have a really nice dev team, and I think there are cool things coming from underground FPV for the Nirvana in the future. But at the moment, the software, either if you're using Open Underground or if you're using the beta version of OpenTX that FlySky distributes, both softwares are not ready for prime time and have some major flaws in usability and features. So I'll think this will only get better when OpenTX 2.3 drops, which will have official support for the Nirvana from the OpenTX devs. So when that will be released, you can just download the OpenTX companion as you're used to with your Tyrannus, and can flash the official drop of OpenTX for Nirvana from that companion, and I think that will rule out all the small flaws and strange situations that the software has right now. On the hardware side, the things are much brighter. The Nirvana is really a really good radio. The build quality is amazing. The gimbals they feel, I think, are the best gimbals I ever flown. They are just amazing. There is something I'm not really sure, like the M9 gimbals of the Tyrannus, they are Hall gimbals, and but they're kind of analog Hall gimbals, so the signal they are producing gets converted into a digital signal before it gets fed into the logic board. And the gimbals inside the Nirvana, they are full digital Hall gimbals, so there's never an analog conversion. And it sounds like a minor thing, but I feel it's a big thing, and I heard that from many other pilots. The gimbals, how they work, how they function, how they feel, and how you control your aircraft with it, it is really amazing. And the whole ergonomics of the Nirvana, if you're pitching or something or whatever, it's really good. It's a really good radio. The hardware is really, really amazing. But it is not flawless. There are little flaws in the hardware. The main thing that bothers me is there is some issues in the internal power distribution. So the Nirvana cannot turn off the JR module. For instance, if you are having a Crossfire in the JR module slot and you're flying a module that only uses the internal FlySky system, the Crossfire will not be turned off as you may be used to it from your Tyrannus. This has to do with faulty configuration on the logic board. It cannot be fixed in software. There is a hardware mod available, I guess, but it is not easy to carry on. And yeah, that can be annoying because your Crossfire module will be turned on always, so you always have to have an antenna on your module. It's just annoying. Also, the telemetry of the internal FlySky is not working at the moment. I don't think that's a hardware issue. I think it's software, but it's definitely a kind of software, low-level software somewhere in the radio baseband chips that cannot be fixed by underground FPV. They have to work with FlySky, and I don't know how this. It seems like not an easy issue to solve. So I hope this will be solved, because telemetry on FlySky is actually really cool. So without further ado, let's have a look at the radio itself on the bench. So let's have a look at Nirvana. I do have the volume here on a special function, so I can control the volume of the speaker with this little knob here. You can do that by going into the radio setup. Just have a look here, and then it is on the global function. It is just the volume assigned to the S2 rocker right here, and yeah, it basically allows you to control the volume. While in the global functions, no, I'm going to show you that. So this is basically your radio setup menu. Every screen here is basically the same as on the Tyrannus, just a little bit differently displayed. So you're navigating the menu items here on the top. Moving that bar is a little not so easy, and then you can navigate the menu right here. And if you would manipulate, for instance, the time right now, you go in there, and then you can select via the on-screen keyboard. So here is the model setup. Here can you configure the home screen, the layout, and so on, but not very much is possible at the moment. There are some important things missing. I'll show you next. Then this is the model setup. To go into the model selection screen, you tap the little button here over there, model select. Here are the different models. And the 0, for instance, is for my little tiny whoop. And then you can access the model setup right here, as you would expect from an OpenTX radio. You can see this is configured as FlySky model, very easy. It has a timer. Timer configuration is different from Tyrannus. It's just not the same. I had to fiddle around to find a simple mode that creates a timer counting down 3 minutes. It was not very easy. There's no firmware that takes out all the Haley stuff yet, as it is for Tyrannus. I usually have my Tyrannus with a firmware that does not have any Haley stuff in there. Then there's the basic input configuration, as you would know from your Tyrannus, the mixer configuration, the output configuration, and you may notice due to the screen being very narrow, not that much information on the screen. One thing that bothers me, for instance, is here in the outputs, the channel adjustments. When I edit this channel, I can edit the subtrim here, but I cannot actually see what it does. To see the actual output of channel 3, I have to leave the menu, go into the monitors, and then I can see what channel 3 is at the moment. You can see this will change when I trim it, and it is really annoying that I cannot see it here. Tyrannus will show you the value in real time here. Another thing that really bothers me is in the mixer, for instance, I'm going to assign a switch to channel 7. What I can do is I go on the source, and if that were in Tyrannus, I just can flip the switch and it will automatically get selected. Not so on Nirvana. I have to look up. It is labeled SWA, and I have to look for SWA in the list. I won't find SWA in the list because it's labeled differently. It's labeled SA in the list, and that's really annoying. And you can see I deleted. Okay. These are the little things that are really annoying with Nirvana. And as I showed you, there is a timer configured for this model, which starts by arming and throttling up. But I cannot see the timer here in the screen. To check the timer, I have to go into the menu and statistics, and here the timer runs, but not on the main screen, which is kind of annoying as well. And yeah, I should have one switch to reset the timer. Yeah, that works. One of the down switches here. So yeah, that's basically the software right now on the Nirvana. Works, but it's kind of flawed. The Nirvana really gives me a hard time. Actually, I really like how it looks and I really like flying with it. I think it's a really great radio. Unfortunately, due to all the software flaws, I mean, it has a touchscreen, but due to how OpenTX is not really good adapted to the touchscreen, I'm faster doing things on my Taranis X9D with the actual buttons and the very good thought out OpenTX integration. Everything is working. I'm faster adapting models on my X9D than on the touchscreen, which is kind of sad. The ergonomics, as I said, are pretty stellar. I really love how this feels in the hand, which unfortunately gets completely destroyed when you attach the big crossfire in the back. Crossfire never bothered me on Taranis since it gets into the slot and nearly disappears. But here it is kind of bolted on. You have this big thing in the back which kind of gets in your way. The whole radio doesn't feel very well with crossfire attached in the back. And you cannot even put it away without having it lying on the crossfire module, which is not cool at all. And since I'm not giving up crossfire in any way, I'm having a hard time making this my default radio for flying my 5-inch rigs outside. At the moment I'm flying my tiny whoops with it, and that's pretty cool. So all these issues make me wonder if this will ever be my primary radio. I hope so, because it's really how a modern radio should be like. But it also makes me curious what to come in the near future. Surely there will be a Nirvana 2. The Tango 2 from TBS is expected to come out this year. I really hope it's kind of this form factor, and I really hope, of course, I think it will have crossfire built in. I think we already knew that, and yeah, it makes me excited about the future of radios. I don't think that this is the radio everyone should go to, but I think most radios in the future will be like this. So this is kind of a preview into the future of radios, and if you can live with all the flaws it has, go into the future of radios now and get one. Really, you can live with it, it's no problem. And I think it's only getting better with the software that's coming out in the near future. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one.